Things keep getting worse for the Boston Bruins. After losing yet another series-clinching game and letting the Toronto Maple Leafs tie the series, things couldn't get worse for the Boston Bruins. But somehow they have, as now we have the head coach calling out one of his star players. We will have all of that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Hattrick HQ. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love hockey, make sure you subscribe because only about 20% of the people watching are subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around the NHL and the playoffs, then make sure you join that community here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We would love to welcome you to the channel. But like I said, things in Beantown aren't looking good. We've had the Boston Blues lately, and things are getting worse and worse for Boston. There's no denying that. Once again, they have found themselves up 3-1 in a series, and once again, they are at a Game 7. Boston, in case you missed it, they lost Game 6 2-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Really, it was 2-0. The Bruins scored with, 0.01 seconds left. It is 2-1 at the end of the day, but really it seemed like 2-0. And it was a bad performance offensively by the Boston Bruins. Sure, they shut down Toronto Maple Leafs offensively pretty well. The Maple Leafs are without Austin Matthews, as we know, but they let William Nylander dangle the absolute noodles out of him, and he ended up getting first star of the game. And one stat I want to highlight down there is, in the end, the shots ended up being very close, super lopsided after one period. But one thing I want to show there is the face-off percentage. The Leafs have been dominating the Bruins this series in the face-off dot, and a lot of that is because, look, Patrice Bergeron has retired and is no longer there. He was a huge face-off guy. That's true, but still, to be losing pretty much 2 out of every 3 face-offs, that is awful. The Bruins need to work on that in Game 7 if they want to not embarrass themselves and avoid the absolute poetic justice of the Leafs beating them after being 3-1 down. We all know what happened back in 2013 with the Leafs having a 4-1 lead in Game 7 and then blowing it to the Bruins. The Bruins, they might blow one to the Leafs over a decade later, and Leafs fans would be laughing. Bruins fans, I really feel for you if that is the case, but we will have to see what does happen in Game 7. Now, this is a really, really interesting stat we have to point out here about the Bruins. The Bruins have lost 6 straight games with a chance to advance, with a chance to break that streak on Saturday night for Game 7. Using implied probability based on betting lines at the time, there is about a 1 in 200 chance of them having lost every single one of those games. So if you go back to Game 7 in 2022 against Carolina, Carolina won that one, but they were favored. If you go to Games 5, 6, and 7 last year in the first round against Florida, after Boston had pretty much the best regular season in NHL history, they lost Games 5, 6, and 7, and they were favored to win. The chances of them losing all 4 of those games was very, very low. Now you add Games 5 and 6 from this year, and it does get to that. There was a 0.5% chance that the Bruins would lose all 6 of these games, and there is a 1 in 500 chance that they lose all 7 games if you include Game 7 this year. Man, it would be amazing to see the Maple Leafs win. I know a lot of people aren't big Leafs fans and love to hate on them, but it really would be poetic justice if that were to take place on Saturday night, no matter what. It will be fun. Now, losing all of those series clinching games is bad enough, but it gets worse now that Montgomery has called out Pasta. And the fan base and hockey fans in general seem to be pretty divided on this one, whether this was valid or not. Now, Pastrnak has not had a great series so far. He has 2 goals and 2 assists. Both of those assists are on Bruins empty netters, so easier points to get. It's still 4 points in 6 games, which isn't terrible, but you do expect better out of your main guy. But is that Pasternak's fault or is that more Montgomery's fault? Let's get into the quotes here. So this is from Montgomery. Your best players need to be your best players this time of year. I think the effort is tremendous. They need to come through with big time plays in big time moments. Marchand has done that in this series. As we've seen, he is the series leader in points with 8. Then Montgomery let his arrow fly on Pasta. Now Montgomery will see if his words wake up Pastrnak. Now, what is this let his arrow fly here? Well, this is what he dropped. Pasta needs to step up, Montgomery said. Wow, fully calls out his best player, saying that he needs to be better. Montgomery went on to say more and saying, the effort is there and everything, but we just need him to step up. He has not been what we need him to be. And while that's true, and Pasta does need to be one of the best players in the NHL in order to win this series for the Bruins, we've seen how good he is, how capable he is of being a demon in the playoffs as well. He does need to step up, but is it really his fault if he's not being given the best opportunities? I don't know. I guess we'll kind of have to see there. Let's see a quote from Pasta to back himself up. I don't know, Pastrnak answered when asked why he's having trouble generating offense. Maybe I don't get enough shots. Maybe I should have a little bit more of a shooting mentality. Pastrnak has 2 goals in round 1. He has 19 shots total. He pledges to put more rubber on wool in Game 7. I'm going to shoot the puck, Pastrnak said. Seeing will be believing in Game 7. Absolutely nuts that Pastrnak hasn't been able to score more, hasn't been doing fantastic. It is a little bit unfortunate for Bruins fans, but he's going to try and really, really get it going in Game 7. But the fan base, like I said, is kind of split between Pasta sucks, bring back Bergeron, bring back Krejci, bring back Chara, bring back Tim Thomas at this point. No, it hasn't been Jeremy Swayman's fault at all. But a lot of people are calling now for the other side of that, saying it's not Pasta's fault, it's Montgomery's, and calling for his head a bit. So here's some comments on Twitter. This dude is a horrible coach with a bunch of laughing, crying faces. And another one that says the guy who put him on power play 2. Yes, Pasta would be a lot better at generating offense if he was on that top unit, because the Leafs do not have the best penalty kill. It really, really isn't great at all. Having Pasta on that top unit would be lethal, I think. Personally, I'm going for the Leafs in Game 7, and I hope the Bruins don't figure it out. But if Montgomery wants to save his own head here and not be just completely shunned by the Bruins fan base, then I think that would be a good call to put Pasta on that top unit. Now, if the Bruins do lose and then lose all of these series-clinching games and lose 3-1 series leads in back-to-back seasons, of course, the fans are going to be calling for Montgomery's head. He has shown how great he can do in the regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, he hasn't been able to do it. Does that sound familiar? Wow, there's a lot of fan bases that can say that, especially the Maple Leafs. Same thing has been said about Sheldon Keefe. Jim Montgomery, Sheldon Keefe, maybe they're in a bit of the same boat right now. Maybe they'll be swapped 1 for 1. We never see trades anymore that are 1 for 1, let alone trades that are coaches. That would be absolutely nuts. But either way, Montgomery seems to be on the outs a bit in Boston. And if they do not win this Game 7, it is going to be a big yikes out there in Massachusetts. Now, let's get into the major implications for Game 7. It is, of course, tomorrow. It should be, for any neutral hockey fan, should be super, super exciting. If you're a Bruins fan or a Leafs fan, it's going to be very, very painful and anxiety-inducing. But that one goes at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Excuse my terrible Photoshop there. Personally, I am in Mountain Time, and it originally said 6 p.m. But it goes at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. A big Game 7 down in Boston. It will be absolutely massive. These teams meet once again in a Game 7 and a very, very important one. And here are some major implications. So Game 7 has huge implications for both franchises. The Maple Leafs can become the first team in NHL history to lose 6 consecutive Game 7s. They are not clutch. This group of Leafs that they've had, the core 4 and beyond, have just not been clutch at all. That would be horrendous if they lose 6 straight Game 7s. Now, the Bruins, on the other hand, can become the first team in NHL history to blow 3-1 series leads in back-to-back seasons. They would be the laughingstock of the NHL, not only because they would lose back-to-back 3-1 series leads in consecutive years, but because the second one is against the Leafs. The Leafs would have all the bragging rights here. No matter what, either team that moves on will probably get smoked by Florida anyway. I said it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But that about does it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. I really hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you like what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.